Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's afternoon already. I appear to be a single native or speaker today, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you for including me in this conference. I decided to comment current and very actual relations between the East and the West, and it's obviously again about the East and the West, regarding the Russian pressures on three former Soviet Baltic republics and the Western Balkans. I wondered if economic institutions, free trade, and dynamic technological development, or failures in these matters, play any role in strategic defense from illegitimate influences or potential hybrid warfare intended to eliminate democratic procedures, rule of law, and liberal values. At this point, the upcoming NATO accession of Montenegro is of a specific importance in the stated context. Between the years 2000 and 2015, democracy was eroding around the world. The rise of anti-liberal authoritarian leadership in failed democracies was welcomed even in Western progressivists' circles. Corrupt states and authoritarian regimes, enmeshed in corruption and denial of any individualism, as Brazil, Russia, India, China, have been seen as acceptable alternatives to liberal democracy. Western left, academia, bloggers, opinion makers, for example, admired Hugo Chavez, and now we have Nicolas Maduro and murdered kids in Caracas. Extreme European left and right are almost united in denial of individualism, free trade, and deregulated economy. Development of European democracy, accompanied by abolition of borders, expansion of political freedom, and ownership transition, is facing ideological and geographical obstacles as political regression in Russia and Turkey is rapidly unfolding. Contraction of political freedom is transferred within a system of communicating vessels run by international corruption and illegitimate pressures. Liberal democracy has notably lost its appeal in circles of Western scholars, political analysts, or other public activists. Even mainstream media and academia remained open to admiration of regime in Russia, Turkey, Venezuela, Cuba, or China. False, cynical, and affected political correctness and cultural relativism are mobilized in rejection of capitalism, private property, free economy, open markets, worth ethic, human equality, and meritocracy. European integration, transatlantic cooperation, peace, and economic prosperity are directly threatened by Russian and Turkish regimes and international Islamic terrorism. Russia is even bluffing its war against the terror while cooperating with officials in Syria and Iran. Russia still seeks to achieve the 19th century strategic goals in order to compensate the lag in democratic social development. The broader and secured access to the Baltic is to be provided by threats and intimidation in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. The broader and secured access to the Black Sea is to be initially provided by the forceful division of Ukraine and occupation of Crimea. By pressures on the Balkans, especially on the Western Balkans, using menace or bribery, in perspective even violence, Russia attempts to proliferate crisis points stretching the EU and NATO intention and forces. But the most reliable Russian ally in these matters is Brussels' passivity and lack of strategic vision or the inefficient, oversized, and short-sighted EU administration. Is Russian hybrid war that led to the violent division of Ukraine announcement of a larger political and territorial disintegration that will terminate the EU unification and enlargement process? Russian strategic breakthrough in political and security system of the EU and NATO member states, counting on corruptive potentials of both extreme right and left, probably announces a new bipolar division within already disturbed European integrative and social structures, shaken by random immigration and certain failure of multiculturalism. Eastern Europe is obviously Russian logical prey, based on historical heritage and territorial pattern, united within a complex of bureaucratic structure. EU democracies are additionally constrained while confronting the need to offer quick and efficient response to new strategic challenges. Baltic and Balkan states are probably the weakest points exposed to Russian hybrid aggression. Baltic states have been already occupied and annexed by Soviet Union in 1940. Even after 1991, their long-term stability was contested by previously installed Russian bureaucracy and security structures. On the other side, a few Balkan states have been integrated into the EU and NATO with most difficulties, or have remained on the margins of the integration processes, democratization and securitization, especially burdened by nationalism, political religion, unfavorable historical heritage and poverty. Economic performances of the Baltic states appear to be more successful barrier to the legitimate Russian impact than the remoteness of the Western Balkans. 3 Baltic republics are among first 10 European entrepreneurial hotspots. Estonia the first, Latvia the third, Lithuania the seventh. How high economic performances generate high political and security standards was confirmed by Estonian ban to foreigners deemed guilty of human rights abuses from entering the country in a law inspired by Sergei Magnitsky case, the so-called Magnitsky law. The Russian involvement in Syria probably almost proves that the action in Ukraine could be a general rehearsal for the new political order in Eastern Europe. Their each following East European prey will be an Ukrainian hologram. Europe almost rejects the Western Balkans by its bureaucratic disdain and lack of willingness to directly encourage not only democratization or economic development, but also regional integration initiatives based on open market and security priorities. In the absence, in the absence of European leadership, Western Balkans are to be parted between Russia and Turkey, thanks to the local corruption, democratic deficiency, and weakness of economic institutions, and also in the context of the prolonged duration of the violent Yugoslav disintegration. It is worth to remind that the armed aggression of the Serbian regime, its vassal regional partners and former federal army, took place in expected anticipation of re-Sovietization of the official Russian policy during the 90s, which actually occurred, but only after the total failure of the joint criminal enterprise in 1999. The Western Balkans populists and nationalists, indirectly supported by the extreme left in public policies and academia, drew their appeal from opposition to capitalism and economic globalization. Both populist and national right and intellectual anti-liberal left share the same socio-economic and cultural constituencies. Both extreme right and the left are advocating national trade protectionism, isolationism, and anti-Americanism. Blue-collar workers, students, and retired citizens are allegedly endangered by greedy banks, international capital and corporation, free market, and globalization. Alternative is to be seen within our own sort of economic and social perpetuum mobile that will create a surplus value instead of capitalist, corporate, and banking exploitation. The most of my colleagues in Belgrade, maybe even here in Montenegro, believe that money is printed in the national bank, not created within within the market and the human labor. The Western Balkans or the Baltic states will not remain an isolated Russian step forward. European democracy is in jeopardy in general, as under suspicion are subsumed integration, democratic representation, political liberalism, and economic freedom. Greece, Hungary, and Poland are also moving in illiberal directions. Certain similar concerns could be related to the Czech and Slovak republics of Bulgaria. Bosnia is divided between Russian and Turkish spheres of influence, not only between the Serbs, Bosnians, and Croats. Russian pressures tend to disintegrate Macedonia and Montenegro. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sasmardzic. I'm sure that those economists that think that money is being created by printing machines are out of UDG. I will ask Peter Kleppe to give us his presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon.